there's a difference between appropriation and appreciation.
Hmm.
Usually the appropriation thing gets into, how can I, it's for the clout, it's for the attention, it's for the money, it's for the, whatever, that there's no heart, there's no genuineness to it, and there's no desire to preserve and appreciate what it's meant for. And like you're saying, I mean, there's definitely plenty of things that exist within indigenous cultures, whether it's American, European, Pacific Islander, Asiatic, wherever. There are plenty of things that exist that are only to be um, that are be kept within those respective circles. But
Hmm.
there's definitely ceremonial things, and there's definitely uh, items and whatnot that are only to be kept within those respective circles.
Yeah.
But I think what we're seeing a lot more of, you're not the only one that's seen, this need among people to heal and to put these differences aside and to realize that we are all connected. There's this shared
Hmm.
experience that we're all having, whatever name you want to put to it, whatever, is it's semantics at this point. Let's get to the root of it all, and let's get to
Yeah.
how we can, coexist and benefit from one another and heal together. And I love that there's people like you that are doing this through music, because music is it's a universal language.
It is. It absolutely is.
Like with the high lung thing we were talking about, and I mean, even the music that you have written now for a decade, produced, and you haven't ever like, do you perform the music too, or
Yeah.
is it just like studio? Oh, you
Yeah,
do.
I do. So when it comes to performing Sun and Moon Dance, I have done two shows that were the ceremonial, the more um, medicinal side
Hmm.
of Sun and Moon
Yeah.
Dance. That one that one has to be done in a very specific place, a very specific realm. It's not something that I'm going to take to a bar to do. Um,
Right.
it has to be a specific atmosphere, and there has to be an intention behind it. Um, Now, I have been playing um, gigs where it's more the neo traditional folk music, um, which is basically when I say neo traditional, I mean it's the modalities, the time signatures of Scandinavian folk music, um, because that's I've been studying Scandinavian folk music for a long time, and it's become a huge part of my life that I wanted to create my own dance tunes, that you would hear in like a dance hall in Norway or Sweden, Denmark, um,
Yeah.
and so that music is a little bit more easily accessible to a lot of people, and
Mhm.
there's just a different energy that goes along with it. You know, I have a very different writing process when it comes to that as opposed to the medicinal music. Um, when I'm just sitting down, just like playing my instruments, I'm just creating melodies. I'll sit and I'll just like listen to a lot of different songs, different meters, and build build off of those meters.
Yeah.
And honestly, like one of my favorite things to do is take a traditional song and like use a tidbit of like that song and create an entirely new song like off of one like maybe like one part of an old traditional. So it's got like a feel of an old traditional song, but I'm creating this kind of new track based off of that.
Yeah.
Um, and
Bringing something from an old way into a new, like a modern time
yeah, yeah,
experience. Yeah.
yeah,
See, I love that, and I feel like that's the beauty of artistic expression. I'm sure there's going to be, and it's like anything, there's going to be people that are like, you got, the purists, the elitists, like, well, it's not that anymore unless you're doing it the XYZ way, like,
yeah,
okay, buddy, like, calm down here. Like, we're just, but I love that there's this, focus or attention even just put on, the preservation of these traditional ways, right? Like it's not like we're trying to rewrite it and change it entirely.
Right.
It's that we're wanting to preserve its beauty and bring it into the modern day. You know, have it to be something where there's a flair or an aspect to it which appeals to the audience that of the world that we live in.
Yeah.
You know,
And especially with how big the whole, like, what a lot of people call the Viking music or whatever.
right? Yeah,
It's a one of the things that I really love to do, is be able to talk about the traditional Scandinavian music and the traditional instruments, because most of the instruments that I play, uh, they're not from the Viking Age. Like even the Tagelharpa is their speculation. The Tagelharpa is one of the instruments that they do believe could possibly have been from the Viking Age, because they do have evidence of a similar instrument, a rebek, which is from like Russia, the Baltics
yeah,
area, and that is played fairly similar to a Tagelharpa. So there a lot of people who are like the Tagelharpa or Yohiko masters. They do believe it's probable. It's very likely that it could have been in the Viking Age, but I think that besides the Munharpa, which is the jaw harp,
hmm
um, the jaw harp is from. I mean, they have found the jaw harp from the Viking Age. Um, but aside from that, a lot of these instruments that get put into the Viking category, they're not from the Viking Age, and we actually don't even know what Viking music sounded like, honestly.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so I like that I'm able to kind of bridge in the more traditional sounding music to some of Sun and Moon Dance's. Uh, Even the medicinal music has like Nyckelharpa, and it's played in a fairly traditional manner in some of those songs. But especially when I work on just the folk music in general, um, I'm able to actually talk about the history. Because
yeah,
there is a lot of misinformation out there, unfortunately, about the what is and what is not Scandinavian folk music or Nordic music. Um, and in my most recent travel to Colorado, I actually played my first Scandinavian Heritage Festival. Um, and what was really cool about this festival is that it they brought in the Viking fight groups in there, but they also had the like 1800s Lutheran like dancers, like a lot of the traditional folk dancing, and
hmm
I was able to bring in a lot of the instruments uh, from Scandinavia, and I gave my first lecture on them. And so the crowd that came was a mixed group of people. Um, there were definitely some of the big Viking dudes, um, just random folk from off the street.
yeah,
But they were able to get this kind of chronological uh, view of the various time periods of Scandinavia and actually what like Scandinavian music sounded like, um, rather than what we contribute to like the dark folk, you know, Vardruna, Heilung, all these other. Uh,
yeah.
there's so many artists hard to keep up.
Mannheim, yeah, like yeah, right.
Um, but yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do is to be able to introduce folks who may not have an idea or kind of had this not quite understanding what Scandinavian folk music was, and then being
Yeah,
able to hear it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so that,
Like
that, was, that, was, that, was, that was really cool for me.